Well, welcome again to another session of the 15th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. Like usual, I'm Bob Hales. I'm your moderator. I'm in lovely Tahlequah, Oklahoma, the home of Northeastern State University and the Cherokee Nation. Don't forget that the Wall Street Journal is our sponsor this year. Right after this session, they're going to have a question and answer thing. It'd be nice if you'll at least drop by, say hello to them. They have some workshops Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the same time slot, and then another Q&A session on Friday. They really have some interesting resources for higher education. It's worth checking out at least. So our session is Escapology, frameworks and tools to create escape rooms for digital learning. And I love the use of escape rooms. Yeah, and I've done some real escape rooms too. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
fun. It's
they're
a way to
lots of
get to
fun.
know some people and just something to focus on. It's great. We have with us Jenny Lopez, who's an instructional design consultant at Florida International University, and Michael Wright, who's the associate director of instructional learning technology, also at FIU. And they're going to tell us all about escapology and how to use it in learning. So let me turn it over to you guys.
All right, thank you, Bob, for that introduction.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying escapology. When Jenny and I first were kind of putting this together, I kept on saying escapology.
I know that was a win for me. I was like, yes.
And I was like, different people say things different ways. But thank you all for taking time out for this session. We're going to talk to you about frameworks and tools, and even the learning science behind developing escape rooms for digital learning. Jenny, I think you went one over.
Yeah, went too fast. Yeah. So again, like Bob introduced us, my name is Jenny Lopez. I'm an instructional design consultant with FIU Online. I work for the incomparable, genius, caring mastermind that is Michael Wright on the Learning Design Innovation team. So we're a team of misfits who love to destroy tech and test out tech for the university. We create and solve problems. So we're kind of like we're like the disaster management team for online live. Can I or like just online learning? Can I say that?
You can say that. You can absolutely say that.
Thanks, boss.
And hello, everyone. My name is Michael Wright. I get to work alongside what only can be described as magical, the genius, the instructional design scholar that is Jenny, and also the person who's like, Michael, that's a really dumb idea. Don't say that out loud. She doesn't do as good a job as that, obviously, but we're working on it. We're working on it.
I mean, I still hate my job.
As the associate director of instructional learning technology, I have a really unique role where I work with the instructional design, the learning design innovation team, which is the team that Jenny is on. And I partner with our faculty in our departments to think about what are the unique solutions that our digital environment and our digital tools can provide our faculty. And so we wanted to talk to you all a little bit about where we come from, so you can understand a bit more why we're here and maybe why there's some reasons how we stumbled upon escapology. Sorry, Jenny. And just a little background of FIU. It stands for Florida International University. We are the 6th largest public university in the nation at over 56,000 student enrollments. We are very, very proud of another distinction that we have, which is the #1 university in the nation to award degrees to Hispanic learners. That's both in undergraduate and graduate. So we are not only a very big university, we are a unique university and a university that serves truly our community and a very diverse student population.
And with that said, we also have won a few awards, pat on our back, with number one in QM. I think it's almost 3 years in a row now, Michael, that we've been
Mhm.
number one in QM. Has been probably our biggest award through FIU Online. And there's also number 17 most innovative. And because we work for the innovation team, or our team is the innovation team, I'm just gonna take that for us,
Full
because I
credit. It's
think
us.
it's ours.
Absolutely.
And then there's also number one in, or just one of the best colleges for business programs. And you may not know this, but I just finished an escape room for the College of Business, and there's raving reviews. It was launched last semester. So even our business programs are being just as innovative as the rest of the university.
Yeah, an award-winning program wanted the escape room featured in their executive MBA course in the marketing department. So we take that as kind of evidence that this is really taking off. And I know we talked about, okay, we're big and we've got, some awards out there. We're doing online well, but we do want to talk about what our group, our unit, our online unit looks like, because it's not the same as everyone. As you can imagine, we're a unique space and unique place, and so we have a unique team. And so we serve over, I don't know, 1,100 faculty in a myriad of different departments. But one thing I want to tell you is that the FIU Online team is nearly 200 team members big, with about 80 plus of those members being either instructional designers or course developers. We have an enormous instructional design unit. It is intimidating.
It's huge. We're like a mini little army. There's so many of us, and people don't understand. It's like, no. We take up 2 whole floors of a building. It's insane. The fire marshal told us we had to do remote learning. Like, there were so many of us.
Yeah.
It was great. It's
Yeah.
like, no, half of you need to do remote learning, remote work. We gotta go home. And we're like, okay, great.
And that's another really great example of how our very unique structure, right? We a huge university, a lot of faculty, a really huge group of instructional designers. But while that comes with a lot of benefits and flexibility, that also increases layers of restriction, which is the reason why we needed instructional designers and a team like Jenny to get together and help us deal more agile and effective with problems as they came up.
And now that you know a little bit about us, we wanted to talk about what we're going to talk about today: escape rooms. What are the problems that we face in higher education or in education overall? And how are escape rooms the solution for these problems?
Absolutely. And I know when we say escape rooms, many of you already have this kind of connotation in your mind. You're like, all right, I know what escape rooms is. This is how I feel about escape rooms. This is what escape rooms make me think about. But we're going to talk about exactly what escape rooms are. We're going to go into a little bit of history, share some of our favorite definitions for it, and give you some really meaningful background there.
And then we're going to talk about learning science. So we don't do anything at FIU unless it's backed by research. And if it's not backed by research, guess who's doing the research? And with that being said, it's really important for us to go through this process of trying to see what theories we can apply, how we can break certain things, and how we can just, guinea pig some of the little systems that we have in place, or some of the little tools, to make sure that we test it out and everything works for our students.
Yeah, and then I think the thing that many of you came here for, the thing that when I go to conferences, I want to know is, what are the tools that let you do the thing? And that's what we're going to show you all. Kind of at the end of this, we're going to highlight 2 specific tools that you can use right now to build these solutions. So let's jump into our first area. That's problems. Look, we're a huge university. We're a diverse university. And I firmly believe that problems are what precipitate solutions and innovation. And what I wanted to talk about in this section is a problem that maybe some of us heard of, some of us experienced, some of us were a part of, are a part of, we still are going through the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, I know you thought it was fully gone. You thought we were never going to talk about it again. But the truth of the matter is, COVID really impacted the way we do what we do, and will impact how we do what we do in instructional design and online learning for years to come. And, one thing that we saw at our university was it precipitated a playing field where people were no longer saying, oh, what is that online department doing? They were like, oh my gosh, online department, we need your help. And going about, I actually pulled up an article that APSIA released in 2021, which I can't believe is 2 years ago. Wow. That talked about the attitudes and the perceptions of online learning after coming kind of through the pandemic. And what it was saying here basically is that faculty are more positive about online learning. They're more bought in, they are on board. So Jenny, our job's done. Like
I know,
already,
it's job security.
Yeah.
I don't have to look for another job.
No, we're good. We're good. It's here. All right. But specifically, the article highlighted 4 areas where there was evidence that faculty have demonstrated, that departments, that environments have demonstrated that there is great adoption, that there's positivity around online learning. And the first area was that digital materials have soared. This is not only in demand for digital materials, but in the supply for them. And we can see this in different repositories for OER content, and even working with some of our publishers, there is a demand for digital materials, but there's also a willingness from these providers to create that. Secondly, we are seeing that faculty are more positive about the outcomes, the opportunities for teaching online. And this is not just our faculty. We're also seeing this in our unit where we work with corporations and training. So at FIU Online, we service both credit program and non-credit programs. We even take on some consultation with industries to build maybe some of their trainings and their onboardings. And we're seeing that positivity from both trainers and experts and faculty alike, just concerning the positive impact of online learning. Third, we're seeing that leadership wants more professional development around teaching and online teaching strategies. And some of you may have seen that at your universities, something that I never thought I would ever see at my own. We released a micro-credential for certain online learning tools and strategies, and we had to create a wait list for individuals to jump on board for training. When before the pandemic, nobody wanted to be forced into training. During it and after, we're having to put people on wait list because they want to get a micro credential, a badge saying they participated. And by the way, the badge is free and all they get is that certification to post on LinkedIn. And the last item that we're seeing is that teaching techniques are changing, right? We're seeing enough research, enough interest coming out and about talking about the value and the power of teaching online well. Now, while I am talking about all this positivity, many of you are sitting down and you're like, all right, Michael, yes, perceptions might have changed. There's a little bit more positivity, but I still get pushback. In fact, there's one phrase that is regularly heard by, I think, myself, by Jenny, and many of you are kind of dealing with this. And it's when faculty say something like, since this is an online course, I know I cannot do blank. Instead, I was thinking about a discussion. And, for most of us, that's heartbreaking because one, you've already stemmed what you could potentially do in your online course, but two, you're defaulting to a regular discussion. And look, I'm not knocking on discussions. Discussions are great for what they are, but definitely with the tools, the skills, and the technology that you have as instructional designers, you have as creative minds, as problem solvers, we can do and replicate great things online. And not necessarily the exact experience, but definitely gain somewhere near the similar and most impactful learning objectives. So while I say that, that is the big problem that we knew we still had to take on, right? Faculty were positive, but they still thought they were limited online. So they were bringing more online, but changing it down and really making their courses less diverse, less engaging because they were online. So the 3 problem areas that we were going through the pandemic with, that we knew we needed a solution for, were these 3, right? The first was in the classroom. We needed a solution that increased student engagement, that preserved academic integrity, and promoted learner persistence. This means that learners not only were showing up, but they were finishing the lessons, they were finishing the tasks. And that is something we can definitely see a value for in both the classroom and training solutions. In training in particular, we were getting SMEs who were saying, hey, we're going online, but you need to be able to prove to us that we can preserve learning activities and engagement that promotes emotional intelligence, team building, and completely increases and touches upon human literacies. And then, of course, that third area that we think about when we're searching problems now, the buzzword, the 21st century skills. This is something that both our faculty and our external SMEs were asking for, were 21st century skills. And I really have a problem with problem solving being a 21st century skill. It's something that I think we've always needed in literally all the centuries. I think what they're trying to say more is it's solution focused skills, right? Skills that are going to be creative and agile. They wanted learning activities. They wanted learning environments that promoted curiosity and cultivated creativity. And that is why we got together. We said, all right, we've got enough faculty on board who are interested. We've got them in a space. They seem positive. We need a solution that's going to address all of these particular points. Let's see what we can create, what we can research, and what's going to stick. And that's why we came up with, and where we came up with, escape rooms for learning.
Let's go what now?
Escapology.
Escapology. And well, all of you may have your own preconceived, I don't know, notion, definition, idea of what escape rooms are. When we don't really know what something is, where do we go? To the dictionary. And what does Merriam-Webster
I was going to say
tell us?
ChatGPT. Is that the
It's an AI. We haven't tested it out yet. Michael, please don't start the ChatGPT discussion in the please.
Okay.
That's a whole other presentation, whole other conference. And what Merriam-Webster says an escape room is it's a game in which participants confined to a room or other enclosed setting are given a set amount of time to find a way to escape. Pretty standard definition. I think it applies to most escape rooms that all of us know about, right? The ones that we see all the time. Now, my favorite definition is one by Dr. Scott Nicholson. For those of you who do not know who he is the creator of Escape If. He does, he's probably one of the biggest, most known developers of escape rooms in the world, if not at least North America and Africa, with his work with Escape If. If you haven't checked it out, I really implore you to do so. And what he describes escape rooms is that it's kind of like playing an interactive fiction game, but you're doing it in a physical environment with a big group of people, sort of like a choose your own adventure book. So I don't know if any of you remember reading these choose your own adventure books where you open up a page in the book, you read up to a certain part, and then it tells you, okay, now navigate to page whatever, and then it'll take you to complete the story. But in this case, what students are doing is that they're competing with each other in groups and trying to solve a problem. So what he's done is he's kind of reinvented the way that escape rooms are defined and used in education by having students create a deeper connection to the work and what it is that they're doing. And then finally, this is probably Michael's favorite definition.
Absolutely. Rubik's Cube, you get the colors, you do the thing, and then refrigerator box. Everyone's.
And the reason we included this here is because an escape room really can be as simple as a Rubik's Cube in an icebox. It could be something where you just solve the Rubik's Cube, or you solve one puzzle and you receive a reward. You receive something that, I don't know, maybe it gives you a new refrigerator, or it gives you a sweet treat or something. But it can be something just as simple. It doesn't need to be something that's so overly complicated. And with that, I wanted to give you kind of a little bit of a background on the origin story of escape rooms. Now, it's still debated on who created the first escape room and where they came from, but most of the research actually leads to Japan, with the first escape room being a game called the Crimson Room that was created back in 2004. Now, this game was actually a point and click game. A lot of these are games that became really popular in the early 2000s, as you saw a lot of elementary school students, I think it was like with the Scholastic book club, they would get these CDs home and they would play like these click and point games. Well, it was the same concept. You click through a room that was designed and you would solve little puzzles to actually escape the room. Later on, a few years after, you see physical escape rooms coming to rise in Japan. Now, it's still not known which one was the first physical escape room. There were other escape rooms that existed during the time, but they weren't called escape rooms. The first one that actually used the name was one created by Scrap, and it's called the Real Escape Game. And legend has it, Michael, that the first escape room was actually 3 sets of boxes in a room. So there's your Rubik's Cube in a refrigerator.
I knew it. I knew it the whole time.
Yeah, and it was something just as simple. These escape rooms then ignite.
We're
not
number one.
talking-
Again, back on top.
We are number one. And with that said, modalities. There are different 10 side that shall not be named for those of you who aren't wearing headphones. And we all got one for Christmas or for some holiday, for some birthday. All of us got it a few years back. They actually had I want to say one of the first oral escape rooms in their catalog, and it was free. And what's great about these escape rooms is that these oral escape rooms were provided in almost 2 modalities. It was accessible because if you had the home version of that application or of that device, you can actually read the text as well. So if you weren't able to use actual oral communication to drive the escape room, to drive the activity, you can use the text-based version as well. So that way you can play with someone who was hard of hearing or who, didn't have sight, and everybody could play together and it was accessible. And what's really wonderful about all of this is that we see how much escape rooms have grown since the early 2000s, just because of how much of a part of our lives escape rooms have been. Just during the pandemic, when all of us were locked in our houses, a lot of us went to games and gamification to try to distract ourselves and try to grow.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because something I hear too, that with any solution that we bring in instructional design or online learning is this accessible? And especially in the public university landscape, every solution we create needs to be accessible for students requiring any type of exceptionalities, right? And so, I love that one of the first escape rooms, it started virtually, and we can easily see how escape rooms happen physically. But now you and I are kind of talking and sharing what is news to many about us going back to virtual, but that it's still accessible and it's still something that, it's something that's exciting and relatable to all of us. Now, we've been talking about, hey, look, there's a problem. Even though online's getting all of this attention, it's still kind of put in this little box that minimizes its impact. And one of the solutions that we need to bring here may be, and does seem like escape rooms is that solution. And then Jenny did a really great job talking to us about exactly what an escape room is. It's not just this one thing that you imagine. It is something greater than that. There's a history of it being deployed virtually, of it being deployed physically. So we can see that there's attention, that our learners, their parents, their friends have engaged with escape rooms. This solution, it seems like there's a demand for it. It's definitely doable in some way, but there's one thing that for many of us administrators, or even when you're consulting with someone, the moment you bring up something fun or a game, they're like, no, that's child's play. What I do is very serious, very important. I need something that's evidence-based and research founded and all that. And years and years I've come up against these struggles and say, come on, let's not use our pretentiousness to hold back. It's something that may be very meaningful and radically helpful. And so what we wanted to equip you all with in this section is the learning science to back up not only this solution that we know is something that's going to elevate a learning experience, but a solution that the research has been whispering about, has been telling us about for nearly 3 decades. And one of the first kind of theoretical foundations and frameworks we want to present to you all is one that, if you've been in instructional design for a while, it was a very sexy term in kind of the 2010s and early into the late 2010s. But it never really gets big rolling. And that term is gamification or game-based learning. And so we have a really interesting activity for you all for this part of the presentation. I'm going to hand it off to the hostess with the mostest, Jenny.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to the game show. I'm not sure what the game show is going to be called.
Escapology.
No, Gammy. We're going to call her Gammy. I also just gendered the game. But in the chat, I'm also going ahead and adding a link for those of you there. If you have a phone or a mobile device, go ahead and scan that QR code and put in the game code, and I'll load it up for you here on the screen in just a moment. Oop. All right. So thank you, everybody. I see there's a few of you going ahead and joining us there. I'm going to go ahead and put the code now here in the chat. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to talk to you all about, and we're going to see which items that we, see every day are considered game-based and what are considered examples of gamification. The first thing that I wanted to talk to you all about or show you was the Starbucks app. I know a lot of us use it. I know we do. We have a Starbucks on the first floor. We have how many on campus?
I see a Starbucks from every other Starbucks in the on campus. It's not healthy.
I mean, that's how you're supposed to do it, I think, with fast food. So what do you all think that this is an example of? Is it game-based learning? Is it gamification? Or do you not know? Are you one of those that are like, Gamma, what? I'm not quite sure.
Ooh, gamification is definitely taking the lead here.
I know there was game-based learning there for a little bit and I got scared. Okay, let's see, what do you all have for us? Ooh, it's a battle. Okay, so since we have most of the answers here already, this is actually an example of gamification. And the reason why it's an example of gamification is because there's no real game. What you see here is that you go to Starbucks, you scan your barcode, and what they do is they use game elements like a progress bar, a little reward system, so that once you reach a certain number of points, here's a reward. You can use the 2,000 points to get a beverage, and then once you get to 400 points, you use it for a beverage and a menu item. So that's how they use different elements of gamification within their application.
Jenny, I want to just on behalf of the game-based learning folks, I don't know what I voted for, but if I might have voted for that, I'm just, is it a game if maybe you and your wife are in a competition constantly of who is gaining more points than the other? Is that?
No, that's the game of life, Michael. That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing.
Take a note on that one.
All right, and then the next thing that I wanted to show you all, let me go ahead and make this full screen. I'm not sure if any of you have played this game before, but for those of you who grew up in the early 2000s, you may have heard of Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing. Michael, have you played this game?
Oh my gosh, yes! I do remember this game.
It's the #1 game to teach your kids how to type. Core memory unlocked, that's what Brian said. It really is. And what do you all think this is an example of? So let me go ahead and minimize this. I'll just have it playing here on the end. I'm going to restart the game, reset the game, and then you all should see a prompt on your devices to go ahead and rejoin and restart the game.
Okay, so just one more. This is a game that teaches you something.
Sure, Michael. Yes.
Okay, I just want to.
I don't want to give away the answer.
I'm asking for a friend. He's gonna put the right answer, I guarantee you.
The friend?
Oh my gosh, there's 10 people who already voted. Oh,
hurry up, Michael. But you all
right.
are correct. This is game-based learning. And the reason it's game-based learning is that there is a story. There's a lot of elements that are used within a game. It's an actual game, and you're learning one skill, something that's very specific, through this game. And that is typing. The story is Mavis. You have a teacher and she teaches you typing and she puts you through all of these different scenarios. You go into different stories and that's how you learn how to type. There's a challenge, there's different challenges for each of the items that she puts you through. So this is one wonderful example. The next one is Duolingo.
Oh, I know this one.
You know this one, do you really?
Mhm, mhm.
Well, it also helps that we've done this presentation before. But what do you all think Duolingo is? Michael, have you practiced your Spanish?
Okay, let's just, I live in Miami. That's enough practice. It's just, I needed to get an oil change the other day.
Honey, we live in
My
America.
daughter's
Most of us don't speak English, so.
All right, so Duolingo, is it gaming
Duolingo
or gamification or gamma what?
or Gamma what? What do you all think this is?
This one's hard.
Mhm. This one's a little tricky.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the thing.
It doesn't help that they just released like new animations and everything too.
I'm glad I'm not the only one struggling with this one, right? We got some gamification and game-based.
No Gamma what's, which is good. People are getting the hang of it. This is great.
Or we're just really confident, even when we're wrong.
That too. All right, so you all can fight me on this as much as you want. This is actually an example of gamification. And here's why. It's missing a lot of these game elements that we normally associate with playing a game. There's no story. There's the objective isn't necessarily really clear. It doesn't say, okay, you're going to be able to use these specific skills at the end to do this. Like you're going to be a pro at, I don't know, Italian, but it doesn't say that. It doesn't give you a clear objective. There's nothing that really drives the game forward. All of these little items here, these are quizzes. And each of these quizzes, what it does is it unlocks maybe some points just to help you with the next quiz. It doesn't progress the story forward. It doesn't really help you learn the skill any more than it really does. It almost lets you kind of score out of certain things. So I would say that it actually does the opposite of helping you learn the language. And it's probably the reason why a lot of people, even since the pandemic, have kind of dropped off of Duolingo altogether as a method for trying to learn a foreign language. Lately, we've seen a lot of people even trying to use this on the Oculus. There's a new program where you put it on and you actually get to speak and practice. And you're using different types of skills to actually kind of retain those skills. So this would actually be an example of gamification. Now, last but not least, I wanted to show you all something that was created by Walmart to train their employees. Now, what's wonderful about this is that you see that you have your own little avatar and you're prompted with different items. You have a little bit of a story and you're walking through a day in the life of a Walmart employee. And this is what's known as a simulation. So this is simulated learning. And we're not going to walk through the entire game, but it's the day in the life of a Walmart employee. The Walmart employee goes through and fulfills orders and goes through everything that they would on the floor. Let's go ahead and reset the game. And for the final round, let's see what you all say.
This has to be the thing.
The thing.
The thing. Like it just.
Yes.
You messed all of us up. All right. I want you to know.
I know that was intentional. That was intentional. I'm trying to make sure you all are awake. I know it's still the morning for some of you. Some of us, it's lunchtime and we're eating and getting sleepy, but it's all good. But you're right. This is game-based learning. It has that element of the story. It has the task at the end, which is to train people. But the story is the day in the life of a Walmart employee, or what do you go through in a full day's work? And you have all of the different game elements in there. There's badges, there's a timer, you have pause and play, there's items that you interact with, tools that you use within the game. It has so many elements that it's considered the game. You're learning how to do certain items and certain aspects of your job as an employee through the actual game. Let's get back to our slides. So in the end, at the end of the day, the main difference between what is gamification and what is game-based learning is that gamification uses specific game elements. So it extracts game elements and it uses it to assist with teaching. This is a great strategy to use depending on what type of teaching method you have in your course, or what type of items it is that you're trying to get students to learn, if there's any specific skill. Game-based learning is more skill-based, and it's more, I want to say, specific. There's a clear reason as to what it is that you're asking them to do. There's a reason for it. There's a method behind it, and they're learning through a game. It's far more immersive than gamification would be. Gamification tries to hide the fact that you're in a course, tries to disguise the fact that you're doing something that's typically not fun. Game-based learning, some would argue a lot of these games are fun. When we talked about Mavis teaches us, Mavis Beacon teaches us typing, a lot of people played that when they were growing up, and we love it to this day. It's a fun game. It's like, okay, we're bored. What are we gonna do? I'm gonna play some Mavis.
It's the nerdiest thing I think I've heard you say all month.
I work in academia. It's expected.
So gamification and game-based learning, there's a ton of research about that, right? That we know, right? It was trendy, it was sexy, but there's two other kind of theoretical foundations that I want to entertain and talk about when putting a little bit of meat and bones onto this argument of why escape rooms from learning is not only credible, but outrageously valuable. And we're reaching about our 10-minute mark, so I'm going to give a little bit of an overview here and then kind of jump into those last two components that I know you all are really interested in. And the first theoretical, or the second theoretical framework, is embodied in this quote from Andrew Carnegie, and it says, teamwork is the ability to work together toward a common vision, the ability to direct individual accomplishments toward organizational objectives. It is the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. See, what this tells us is something that we know, that we've seen, especially in the face-to-face classrooms. And it's a foundation, it's a theory. And in research, what we're seeing it is presented as team-based learning. And if you've heard this before, you've looked at it, team-based learning is basically made out of four components, right? The first are strategically formed permanent teams. The second is readiness assurance. The fourth and the third kind of come in together, but it's force application activities and peer evaluation. And we get it, right? We see that team-based learning is important, right? We see that it's valuable, but sometimes we cannot quantify what that says or why it's important. So I think the research has told us, we've spent a ton of time. This presentation is about 2 years in the making, looking at all the research that talks about team-based learning and its benefits. And there's a long list, but some of the biggest points is that team-based learning increases test performance. It increases not only engagement, but attendance. Learners show up, learners are present. Most importantly, they retain the information more, and it impacts both students' attitudes towards the learning material and towards the group work. So team-based learning, it's valuable, it's great, but it also has benefits both to the organization and to the group of learners outside of just that individual assessment piece. And what I love about the TBL is kind of summarizing this quote from the research. It says, TBL, however, is a comprehensive instructional system that, when implemented correctly, achieves an increasingly interlocking synergy and amplifies students' social and intellectual capacities over time. Remember, how do we allot for the emotional intelligence, the human literacy in an online activity? We deploy a solution that leverages team-based learning, which escape rooms do. Our second theoretical or foundation is embodied in this quote from Albert Einstein, where he says, we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. And if you're a little familiar with kind of learning science and the research and instructional design, you know that the next topic that I'm going to speak about, the next learning science foundation, is going to be problem-based learning. And look, problem-based learning is founded on, yes, these 4 components: listening, critical evaluation, self-directed learning, and limitations. But really what problem-based learning is about, it's about observation and critical thinking. And the research kind of summarizes the take-home value of problem-based learning right here, and saying in problem-based learning, students use triggers, right? We think about escape rooms and the clues and the answers that it gives from the problem, case, or scenario to define their own learning objectives. When learners make the learning their own, what they discover becomes personal and longer lasting, both in their memory and their application. Thus, problem-based learning is not about problem solving per se, but rather it uses appropriate problems to increase knowledge and understanding. And what we get from this research is that in order to get all those benefits, that get better understanding, more significant information interpreting, increasing logical reasoning, applying different strategies and analytical thinking, you need to build an activity, a framework, a learning experience that uses appropriate problems to increase that knowledge. So we talked about the science for it, right? Game-based learning, gamification, problem-based learning, team-based learning. But the framework that you can apply in order to leverage and create this activity, or to even leverage in order to approach how you sell someone on this activity, what we've been using is design thinking. And what we really love are the empathize and define stage. Look, I'm not going to spend a ton of time in the define thinking arena. This is like the sexiest term that's used in conferences ever since 2000 and like, I don't know, 17. So I won't talk to you a ton about design thinking, but I really welcome you and entertain you to consider using this approach with kind of an ADDIE background when thinking about where are escape rooms appropriate, how can I convince someone to deploy it, and how do I approach creating one?
And speaking of approaching creating one, after you've gone through the empathize and define phase, you've looked at your students, you've figured out what problem it is that you're going to use escape rooms to solve, you're going to go to the ideate stage. And in the ideate stage, you're going to create this baby. This is called a concept doc. And I don't want you all to get scared looking at this GIF of a concept doc scrolling through. What this is, it's an idea or a way for you to express all of the different elements that are going to go into the game. What is the story? Who's your audience? How are you going to test this? What are the tools you're going to use? How are you going to build it? This document allows you to organize all of your thought processes and then actually turn this into someone to actually make the game. So once you do this document, it's done, and you can just send it to a developer and work with them to actually develop the game. But with this document, there are just a few little items that I want you to focus on, and it's these 5 key areas. It's the instructional context for your students. What is it that you're building this game for? Remember that you're building a game for somebody else. You're not building it for you. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What's new and trendy? What are they into? You want to make sure that you understand the context of your learners, the skill that you want them to learn, and how you want them to do so. And what I want to say is the most important part of this entire document is the story. And you're probably thinking, Jenny, how is the story the most important part of this whole process? And really, it's that the story is what drives engagement. After you've set up the story, after you've written the story, you know where it's taking place, the setting, everything else just falls into place. You know what tools you're going to be using, you know what game mechanics you're going to use. And by game mechanics, I mean, like, how is the game actually going to run? Is it a point and click? Is it an immersive like VR game? What are the different ways that they're going to engage with items in the game? And these items are these tools. So in this aspect, tools are what students are using in the game to propel themselves forward. And then last but not least, play testing. You need to make sure that you play test your games. You're probably going to spend the most time in the story and the prototyping phases of developing your games. but once you do, it's an absolutely incredible game that results from it.
And yeah,
And
oops, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I just think in an effort to best like honor your time and the time that we have left here, everyone, I want to kind of just breeze through. Look, there's two tools we're going to talk about in this space. One of them is based in the Google Workspace. We are big fans of using Google Slides for storyboarding and for asynchronous escape rooms using Google Sites. Now, I want you all to know, I know we're kind of going through this last part a little bit fast, but that's because I want you all to get some time for questions. You will have access to this presentation. We'll give you a copy of this so you can go back and kind of look at these. But the first tools that we're using for both storyboarding and for asynchronous escape rooms is Google Sites for the escape room and Google Slides for the storyboarding. Google Sites works because you can put a nice little Google form at the end. They kind of put their name in there, and that's how you know they've gotten to the end of that. Many of your universities might use other tools, but really it is just a free, easy, and intuitive website builder. And you can use any website builder for these type of asynchronous escape rooms, ones that students can open and walk through together on Zoom.
And then speaking of Zoom, the next tool that we wanted to showcase with you all, we paired with Zoom. So H5P is a powerful tool. I call it the jack of all tools, just because there are tools within the tool. There's so many things that you can do with it. But one of the examples that we paired, we kind of used a little bit of a jigsaw type of assignment that we had a bunch of our colleagues try to test out. And what this is we had an escape room that had a bit of a story. There are hot spots within the area. But what's really important is that each of us were in different rooms simultaneously. The only way that we could move forward is by helping each other, either in the chat or orally, based off of the clues that we were given in our room. And that was just one strategy that we used to implement this tool. But this tool can be used a myriad of ways. I've used it. I've created another escape room that's with a 360 video, 360 images and hotspots, one that's a full branching scenario, kind of like how this one is a branching scenario, but it's not as complex. There's just so many ways that you can pair this and use this within your course. And what's really great, and that I should not fail to mention, is that this reports to the Grade Center. If you pay for H5P, if you have a university license for the LTI, it syncs with your grade book automatically. So students complete it and you don't have to worry about it. You can look back to see how they did and look at their progress if you have any questions, but it reports directly to the Grade Center. It is free to use. There are some elements that are free to use that you can go on h5p.com, h5p.org and look at it and see which items are free for you to use. But if you wanted to integrate with your LMS, you need a license.
We love H5P at FIU. Most powerful tool that we use. We are huge fans. I actually just put a link to it in the chat so you all can check that out. And we're, I think all we've got left now is the takeaways. And our takeaways are really just escape rooms are a relevant evidence-based learning strategy for training and for teaching.
Remember to storyboard. It's really important that you take the time to storyboard your process so you make sure that the end product is something that can last the test of time. And also remember that you can design it however you want. It can be as challenging or as easy as you make it.
And last but not least, especially leveraging the tools that we've shared with you all today, you can create escape rooms that are both affordable, manageable, and capable. And I want to add something now. It's also accessible. H5P, a majority of their tools are accessible, and so are features and tools that you can use within both Google Sites and Google Slides. All right, that's what we've got for you all. If you've got any questions, you can download this and access this through our Google site, and we'll definitely stick around for any questions that you all might have.
Boy, just like in our last session, how radical, making learning fun,
Oh, Leah, yes. So for Breakout EDU, yes, they are really great tools. The only thing is for our institution, we weren't sure how accessibility was going to work, but I did look at Breakout EDU for some of the items that we wanted to build out in our escape rooms.
Megan, you had a question about Microsoft schools. We are still dealing with a cultural trauma of having had to migrate away from Google into Microsoft. It's
RIP
actually a
Google.
short note here at FIU. What we've used is H5P to replace the need for kind of Google Sites or that link there with the tracking and the analytics. It's a really affordable tool. It's an incredible tool, and it gives you much more power. If you want something outside of an LTI that you don't have to pay for, that's also free. We would suggest then using a Wix tool to build the website, and then have students fill out a Microsoft Forms at the end of that. That's what we've seen work as kind of a patchwork solution. Six-year-olds and college students are about the same. I thought they were
I
saying
know.
6-year-olds in college. Paul, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you've done assignments where you've had students work together to build escape rooms rather than just solve the escape rooms.
Yes. So in in Camila's genetics course, so this professor saw our presentation and she was like, hey, we want to build an escape room. What we ended up doing was we used a tool called Genially. We pre-built a few escape rooms. So we built a shell of a bunch of the escape rooms the way that they were going to navigate through the items. We shared them with the students. They would then copy it and then use that to create like the questions that they want students to answer, the problems. They would, if anything, put your email here and I'll show you, put your email in the chat and I'll send you more information. I'll email you after.
And Paul, I just linked Genially for you there. It's an interactive authoring tool out of Spain. Incredible and very, very, very powerful. Katarina, I believe you asked, what are the most common uses of escape rooms? Is it used as assessments instead of exams, or a main avenue delivering content? In our experience right now, we've seen it used 3 ways primarily. One is a formative assessment. So as you go through an escape room, depending on your answers, you get kind of instant feedback, reward or not, if you've mastered the content in the previous space. The second is a kind of study reinforcing material. So just a way for them to exercise and prove that they've understood the material. And then the third is kind of an immersive delivering content, primarily for virtual study abroads or other kind of humanities courses where culture and the vision, the tactile experiences is what's most prominent. I don't know, Jenny, if you agree that those kind of are the most prominent. We haven't seen one used yet for a summative assessment yet, only because the H5P builds that we're creating that Jenny's been pushing out, that's launching now in that business course. And so they want to use that as a summative assessment.
I've written one for a summative assessment for that Italian like culture and society course.
Yes.
But I haven't gotten her to agree to let me develop it yet, the professor.
They're really, I mean, it's a really agile tool. And one, I pitch this to our faculty sometimes. I'm saying, hey, look, you're building this tool or this activity for your students to learn something incredible. It's okay to enjoy building something. So it's a fun thing to create. And let me tell you all, whether the tool gets deployed, the activity gets deployed or not, what you find after you've gone through this process with most of your SMEs or faculty, they are more open and willing to take in even some of those foundational standard best practices in online learning. Now they'll listen to you a little bit more because they enjoyed that work experience and the delivery of that particular end product.
I think that's really a great thing to say to faculty. And again, not just students have a good time, but faculty have a good time. I mean, bring that enthusiasm for your subject to the class rather than just be boring all the time, Well, I think we're out of time, speaking of that. boy, this is good. I wish we could spend even more time talking to you guys. I wish I had a huge instructional design team like you guys. No, but it's great. Hey, don't forget we have the Wall Street Journal session coming up in just a few minutes. Hope to see some of you there. And boy, Jenny and Michael, thank you so much. I'm glad we had you do this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for having us. And if anyone is interested, just email us at OL Innovate. May and I will, send me your resume. We're always looking for some great talent. We do not have any remote positions though. You have to be in.
You have to be in Miami. I'm sorry.
We're
I'm
still
sorry.
Florida, y'all.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, guys.